Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith, this one child abuse survivor to another restoration. And it's Wednesday morning, August 31st. I'm just glad to be here, waking up 6:30 in the morning here, having coffee, trying to wake up, and hoping you're having a good morning so far, wherever you are. And this is just a morning reflection, really looking at my healing journey, what I can do, to continue working towards healing, and looking at coping mechanisms and self-care and whatnot. So I hope this information is helpful for somebody else. I know it's helpful for me as a survivor of abuse. So thanks for joining me, and thanks for tuning into all my shows. I know there's been quite a few people listening to my shows, and I mean over the years I've had quite a few people, 52,000 something people listening to my shows, and I really appreciate all the support, and you've taken the time to do that. So hopefully you're getting something out of these, like I said. And if you're a survivor, healing on a healing journey there, you want to make sure you're safe enough really to listen to these types of things. If you're, not sure, if it'll trigger you, or you're just not sure, never really checked into a safety list type of thing, you want to make sure that you actually get that information. There's lots of places to find that information. I actually found some good information from a long time ago that I read through myself, just to make sure that I was safe enough to do stuff like this. And it's Safety First from Adult Survivors of Child Abuse. It's a Morris Center program. It's their Survivor to Thriver manual. They have a chapter, and the very first chapter is devoted to safety first, and it's like I say really on every show, 60 pages long, right around 60 pages. It's a long, it might even be more than that. And you can read that and actually make sure that you are safe enough to listen to something like this, and it's not going to trigger you and send you backward in your healing journey. That's just really important. And so make sure you're safe enough before you listen, because if you're not sure, it's better to turn the show off, and that way you're not triggering yourself and ending up having a bad day and struggling, and nobody wants that, right? So make sure you're safe enough to listen, and we'll get right into this. This morning we're just going to continue on. Looking at, morning reflection, how am I doing in my healing journey? Any particular things I'm working on? I had to put a lot of things off, just got really busy, and then got sick. I got cold. Things always come up like that. And I'm getting better, getting over the cold, and so that's good. My husband also fell and kind of hurt himself, and he's all right, but he's getting a little better too, day by day. But things got put off, and there's always something going on in people's lives. You know how that goes. So I haven't been able to work on any of the stuff that I wanted to work on, which was yoga, and start some yoga and stretching and things for my physical health, as well as breathing exercises, things like this. That's all got put off to the side because I really have had no time to deal with anything like that, and haven't been feeling well. So I've been trying to catch up on some rest and that sort of thing too. So that's all been put off to the side. But I'm just continuing on, working towards getting things done, so that's a good thing, and that's a move in the positive, in a good direction. And we'll look at the Victim to Survivor to Thriver thing from Havoca. That's HAVOCA, Havoca, Help for Adult Victims of Child Abuse, Havoca.org. They have a Victim to Survivor to Thriver thing there on their website, and it's really quite interesting. We've been looking at it. We're almost through it. It's pretty well almost done, but it's quite interesting to sort of gauge where we're at, right? The victim this morning, the victim needs people and chemicals to believe they are all right. And then the survivor has glimpses of self-acceptance and fun without others. And the thriver feels authentic and connected and whole. So where am I in that? Needs people and chemicals. The victim needs people and chemicals to believe they are all right, or okay, right? And I mean, these are generalizations. Not everybody would feel that way. And the survivor glimpses of self-acceptance and fun without others. Yeah, I'm definitely more towards the thriver on that. It's past the survivor, even closer to the thriver. But I understand that victim situation needs people and chemicals to believe they are all right. I mean, I just used chemicals to cope, as far as when I was in my teens and then late teens and then early adulthood, it was doing a lot of drugs. And I was using chemicals to cope, and it was actually my way of staying sane in a very insane situation. But it was also a very dangerous and very unhealthy way of coping. And so, it wasn't good for my body, it wasn't good for me. And I did get off the drugs, which is good. Some people, I mean, I'm not on any kind of meds or anything like that, so I don't feel like I need meds to feel okay. My big thing, my big monkey is cigarettes. That's my big thing. I've been smoking forever, and so I do use those for a crutch. And I actually quit before for a year and a half, which was good. And then I started smoking again when I started dealing with the child sexual abuse. Looking back at it and trying to heal and move in a positive direction in that area, it was very stressful, and I started smoking again. But at least I know that I can quit because I did quit for a year and a half, and I just need to get back on that, right? So, but I still, I mean, that's what I would say. That's my chemical that I use. It's just cigarettes. But I used to be a really quite heavy drug user as a young person, and I know I was using the drugs for many reasons, and it was because of the abuse, absolutely. Um, and needs people and chemicals to believe they're all right. I really never felt that I needed people to be all right because my problem is I don't really trust a whole lot of people. At least I didn't. And now I'm working towards, I know, as an adult, wanting people to trust me, so I have to give them the give them the opportunity to prove they're trustworthy, just like I would like them to give me the opportunity. So, as an adult, I can see how this works. When I was younger, I had a very close, very very small, tiny, close network of people that I hung around with, and we were all abuse survivors, child abuse survivors, and we were all drug users, and we were all under the age of 20, all the way from like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way up to 20, 21, 22. I finally got off the drugs at like 21. And so I did need those people in my life, and the chemicals and the drugs, right? And so, but now I'm just a cigarette smoker. I don't drink. I'm not really into alcohol, and I'm not really, and I'm not into drugs. So I mean, even for me, a Tylenol is a big deal. I'm like, I don't even take a lot of Tylenol because I don't feel like I don't need that stuff. You know what I mean? Unless I absolutely have to take one for a headache or a toothache or something like that. So I'm not really into trying to mask anymore. The cigarettes are the last stronghold that I really need to get rid of, and otherwise I'm doing pretty good. So, Survivor, glimpses of self-acceptance and fun without others. So the survivor is beginning to accept themselves, and have fun without others, and not needing people around to have fun. Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, I'm there for sure. Definitely learning to accept myself, and I've done a lot of work in that. Just learning how to love myself and care about myself, and others, and then fun without others. Can I have fun without others? Absolutely, I can, and I actually find a lot of joy in things whereas maybe I didn't used to when I was younger, and had a lot of anger and a lot of like rage problems and anger problems when I was younger. I really couldn't see anything good, and so as an adult, now so many years later, working through my healing journey, I have a lot of things that bring me joy, and it's always really the small stuff. It doesn't have really much to do with anything physical or material, and it doesn't have anything to do with money. So it's it's these little things that I find that bring me a lot of joy and a lot of happiness, and I can have fun just basically sitting around, with as far as I'm concerned with myself. I really don't need other people to make me happy, which is really a good thing. Because that's kind of part of codependency is when people feel that they just can't survive without somebody, and they need, it's like it's a need, right? It's a codependency thing, and they project their happiness is only based on what they can get from that other person, right? And I mean, I knew that wasn't going to get me anywhere, and because I found that out as a child, right? I was never going to get my needs met, and I thought, well, then I'm going to have to meet my needs, So I've always been working on that and realizing that no, I need to be happy with an inner happiness and an inner joy if I'm going to have any good experiences here on this earth, because I can't rely on somebody else to do that for me, right? And so, I've made a lot of progress in this. The Thriver feels authentic and connected and whole. So I'm working towards that. I definitely feel authentic because I know I'm authentic, because I'm really honest with myself, and I try to be really honest with others. But I'm even honest with myself at what I'm doing. What are my behaviors? How am I behaving? what can I do better? What do I need to work on? I'm really kind of, really hard on myself, to be honest. And also, but then I want that from other people too, right? So, and I want that, that's how I conduct myself. So I think everybody else should too, but not everybody's like that. But, that's me, and that's just where I'm at. So yeah, I feel authentic and connected. You know, I'm working on it. And as far as feeling whole, I think it's my higher power really that actually completes me. I don't think there's anything on this earth that's ever really going to be able to fill the void or the gap, the missing stuff. And so I'm a very spiritual person, actually, highly spiritual, and I believe that my higher power, which is my God, right, completes me, right, and has made me whole. My thing is I'm trying to move from such a horrific situation of being abused to a position of that not allowing that abuse to have been for nothing, and not allowing the pain and the suffering that I've witnessed and seen in my lifetime, and even gone through myself, to count for nothing, right? And so I'm working on bringing up, sort of shoring up the edges of that horror and that abuse, so that this stuff just was for nothing. You know what I mean? I don't want to go to leave this earth, and leave my body and leave this earth suit behind onto an eternity, which I believe that I will be going, with undone things. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm working on this healing journey. I mean, like I could have, like, May 22nd, 2007, probably just kind of, gone past it, because I did start my healing journey at that point, and I really felt, that I don't know, I just felt somewhat healed. Then as I was working on things and working with not-for-profits and stuff like that, realized, I did need help. And it all really kind of stemmed from my abuser dad coming to stay with me for a year as an adult woman. I was like 44 years old, and he's in his, like, almost 90, And that's what spurred this whole thing on. And I realized that, I had some unfinished business to take care of. And I needed to heal, and I needed to work through this stuff, because it wasn't going to happen until I actually faced it. And so this is why this is taking me so long, because I don't have a whole lot of time to spend on it. But that's the thing. If I didn't have to work and I didn't have anything else going on in my life, I think I would have been done with this stuff, gone through this stuff a lot faster. But I am busy, and I, like everybody else, have things to do. And I can't just drop what I'm doing to go and do this stuff. And so, it's been a progressive, a little bit here, a little bit there. And it's also been a great learning experience. And I'm learning, how to overcome and how to change those behaviors, that I was given, that I was taught how to behave, and picked up from really toxic people, so that I don't repeat this stuff with other people, Like, I'm not a parent, so I didn't pass on the disease that way, as far as passing on the cycle of abuse, because I have no children. But the thing is, I still can come across in my relationships today with whoever I'm around. And so I try to be responsible for my behavior. And, unlike a lot of people, like I'm saying, there are many, many people in the world that are not on their healing journey, and they don't really want to take responsibility. But, we just almost can't expect them that they're going to do that, because there's many people that are in denial about their situation, and they think they're fine. It's kind of sad but true. But there's a lot of people like that, and they just haven't figured it out. But that's okay, because we're supposed to be bigger than that. We're supposed to be able to see around that. And especially if we've come any distance in our healing journey, that we're going to know that not everybody is on a healing journey, and there's many people that are very toxic out there. And I can even be toxic. So what are my behaviors? I need to watch myself, I need to watch my behaviors and realize that not everybody else is on a healing journey, and they may have some very toxic stuff going on. And it's like, we're all sort of working on this journey here together, you know what I mean? So it is quite interesting. But yeah, it feels authentic and connected and whole. So I'm in between the survivor-thriver, but I'm more towards the thriver, I think, on this one. And we'll look at help for adult victims of child abuse of VOCA's inner child healing stuff. And this is information of why heal your inner child. We were looking at how to begin. Yesterday, you can go back and catch the last part of that article, how to begin the inner child healing work. Now, this one is called Why? Why heal your inner child? Because that's me. I used to think, like, when I started looking at inner child healing work, I thought, why would I need to do that? Do I even have inner children? Like, do I really even buy into this? Like, I knew there was this inner rage and inner problems with myself, and I could always see myself at these ages that I was, and remember where I was and the pain and the just what I was dealing with as a child growing up in an abusive home. But I didn't really think about these little parts of me as being inner children. So, this is kind of interesting what they have to say here. Why heal your inner child? They said, for all of the so-called progress of our modern societies, we still are far behind most Aboriginal cultures in terms of respect for individual rights and dignity and some kind of balance with the good of the whole. And they said they're not speaking about the urbanized societies, but more just the tribal Aboriginal societies. They said nowhere is this more evident in terms of our relationship to our children. Modern civilizations, both Eastern and Western, are no more than a generation or two removed from the belief that children were property. And this, of course, goes hand in hand with the belief that women were property. And the idea that children have rights, individuality, and dignity is relatively new in modern society. So the predominant and underlying belief, as it has been manifested in the treatment of children, has been that children are extensions of and tools to be used by their parents. Now, this is really interesting what they're saying here. That's very true, actually. And if you do the studies, it's obvious, but what they're saying there is very, very true. It's only been a few generations, where children's rights have actually been even brought up and enforced. Like, think about 1850s, 1800s England, with Charles Dickens writing Oliver Twist as a newspaper article. He wrote the book Oliver Twist as a newspaper running a weekly or whatever, a weekly newspaper article, and he would write these parts of Oliver Twist and put them in there. The people that were reading this newspaper started to realize that their industrialized, 1800s England was mistreating their most vulnerable part of their society, which was the children. Orphans, children that had, been thrown out on the street, abused. Then they were put into these workhouses and just abused some more, And children really had no rights at that point. Abuse was just rampant. And this is just there's only been a few generations. And in my family, what's funny about this is why I bring this up is because my parents were born in the 1920s. Their parents were born in the late 1800s. So my grandparents were born in late 1800s, and my great-grandparents were born in 1850, 1840. And it goes back, I can trace it all the way back to 975 AD, because we have kind of it's not, well, it is kind of famous, but it's not that famous, but it's traced all the way back to 975 AD with all the knights and all this stuff. And the thing is there was no, this is the belief that children are just property. You just use them. They're like a workhorse. The reason I say this is because that's what happened to my mother. My mother was treated like that by her mother. And so, this is just, not right. And I'm so glad that we made progress, but still look what's going on. You see in the world today, abuse is still happening, child abuse is still happening. So it's quite interesting what they had to say here about that. It's very true. It's only been a few generations. And, just that the rights of women and the rights of children, it's still a real problem. Obviously, we know this, right? They said, so they're saying treatment of children has been the children are extensions of and tools to be used by their parents, right? So children are to be seen and not heard. Spare the rod, spoil the child, right? Well, that's how my mom grew up, and my dad. And that's how I grew up, because they grew up that way. They passed it on. But it wasn't loving correction. It was abuse. And so same with them. They were abused horrifically, my parents, and that's why people say, well, is that why they abused you? And that's a big part of it. So they were abused, and they went into an abusive marriage, and they never got help with their issues, and the CPS, Child Protection Services, were involved, and my mom begged the courts, don't take my children, they're all I have, And then they continued to abuse us, which was horrific. Yeah. So this is the thing. So they said it's only in very recent history that our society has even recognized child abuse as a crime instead of an inherent right of the parent. The concept of healthy parenting as a skill to be learned is very new in society, and that's very true. My mom used to tell me that she had the right to kill me. When she was abusing me, she would tell me, it's my right to kill you, I can kill you. I was just property. I was just this thing, right? That's why I did a lot of work on this, talking about this on my Born in Hell website, and you can catch that from the link on Blog Talk Radio here, but it's on the front page. I did like 26 hours worth of video talking about this stuff. It's like, you know, I was just a punching bag for her. I didn't have any. I didn't matter to her. It didn't mean anything because, that's how they thought. There's really old, warped ways of thinking, right? And that's not cool. I'm sorry. I'm so glad to see that rights are being looked at now, because that's really what I'm standing up for, is child rights and human rights. And it's like, like they said, it's only in very recent history that our society's even recognized child abuse as a crime. This was back in the 60s when CPS got involved. CPS, it was late 60s, and in the States. And back then, you could abuse your children. Even in the 80s, the rules hadn't even been clarified in the 1980s. It's only been since about the 1990s that some serious rules have come out to say, it's against the law to abuse children. It's against the law to murder children. It's against the law to sexually abuse a child. It's only been since the 1990s. See? So we're sitting at 2016 now. We're looking at 1995. Not even 10 years, right? So you think about like when I was born in the 60s, you could just do whatever you wanted to your children. Really, there was no. We had CPS involved. They used to come. They had their clipboard. They used to check for signs of abuse and give me a sucker, And we were allowed to stay in the home, and so the abuse just continued on. They signed off the case, and my parents never took us to the hospital, never took us for medical treatment, because they knew if they did, they'd be looking in, going, "What's going on? More abuse." And then the thing is, my mom, I don't know why she just didn't let us go. Because then I found out when I was 30 years old that she never wanted any of us, and that she abused us because she just wanted to. She didn't care about us, and none of my siblings, right? So it's horrific. And so it's just recent that people are starting to actually see that this is wrong, right? This is sad that it's taken us this long to figure this out. And as an abuse survivor, we have to know that what happened to us was incredibly wrong. We did not deserve that, right? So we'll go on and we'll take a look at the rest of this article tomorrow. This is just the beginning part of why heal our inner child, right? And they go on to talk about the programming that we learn. That it's very tragic, really, because it's horrible what we've learned from these toxic, really toxic situations out there, being abused. Because not everybody's been abused by a parent. Mine was parental and a sibling. Some people have been abused by other people, like in society, whether it's whoever got a hold of that child, right? Absolutely horrific. So we'll take a look at the rest of that. We'll just look on a little bit more at that tomorrow. And a positive reinforcement, what am I doing right in my daily walk here? Looking at positives instead of negatives. Because I couldn't get much done, but I'm just still working through, and now I find out that my husband and myself have to move, and so we're not moving, out of the city or out of the province, but we have to move within the city, and so I'm going to be really busy doing all that. So things are going to get put off. That's all there is to it. But as long as I just continue on and keep working little by little by little, it'll all get done. So that's all right. And a positive affirmation for myself today. Yesterday was I can trust all of my thoughts and emotions. Today is I make decisions confidently. And I can say that all day. It's a positive affirmation. I make decisions confidently. We have to, I think it's important to weigh things out before we make decisions. I have a tendency, I actually try to do that and try to really be responsible for my decision-making processes. And usually feel pretty good about them. And always there's some reason for everything that I do. And then sometimes I don't handle things very well, and I really do kind of self-sabotaging things, as I've talked about before on here. And self-sabotage relationships, sabotage things in my life that I feel like, it's just not working or whatever. It's just not, I'm not getting my needs met or whatever. And I end up self-sabotaging, whereas if I would just think things through a little bit, give myself some time and actually work through it, I'd be doing myself and everybody else a favor. But I'm working on that. That's what I'm saying. It does take time. So I make decisions confidently. I actually do for the most part. And as an adult, I'm generally pretty stable and pretty healthy as far as that sort of stuff goes. But but I have to be careful with that my inner children are not running the show. My inner wounded 10-year-old is not running the show because she's just going to shut everybody out. She doesn't trust anybody, and she's just trying to recover from a lot of abuse. You know what I mean? So it's a real problem. You know what I mean? So I have to be the adult in the situation. I have to make sure that I'm making decisions based on the adult me and not my inner woundedness. Right? It's very important. Avoca Survivor's Bill of Rights. This is kind of self-care. What are we doing, like physically, spiritually, emotionally, to care for ourselves? Like, what can I work on? I mean, I feel pretty good emotionally, spiritually doing well. Physically, we just need to keep working on that. And remember to take some time out and go for a walk, and go, put some lotion on, and this kind of self-care stuff that most people do on a daily basis. I got to remember, like, yeah, go and just have a night off and watch a movie, put my feet up, and read a book. I did get some books for the winter reading up here because winters up here are pretty long and pretty cold, and I really don't go out too much because it's like minus 30, minus 4, minus 35. It's a little chilly, and so I got lots of books lined up to read, which would be really great. And so I like to read. And so, yeah, I need to take time for that. It's important. So we'll look at Havoca's Survivor's Bill of Rights. This is in the sphere of personal communication. You have the right to speak of your experience with respect for your doubts and uncertainties. So we have the right to speak of our experience with respect for our doubts and uncertainties. That's right, because everybody else has that right, so why would we not have that right? Everybody else would say, I have the right to speak of my experiences, and with respect for my doubts and uncertainties. That's right. So we do too, and we have to remember that. These things are very important. We have rights as well. And because if you're an abuse survivor, because we were abused as children at some point, we might feel that we don't have rights. So these rights are very, very important. You can get that from Havoca.org. Like, just go to their website, HAVOCA, Havoca.org, and you can look under Survivors tab at the top of the page, and then it'll be on the left-hand side. There's going to be just like column after column after column of these tabs of information there. Really good stuff, so be sure and check that out. Personal Bill of Rights number 22. This is Charles H. Whitfield, and this is Healing the Child Within. That's his book, I guess, Charles H. Whitfield. This is just 38 personal Bill of Rights, 38 rights that we have, and this is number 22. I have the right to be happy. I like that. I have the right to be happy, and I do, and you do too. And this is the thing, I have a friend of mine who helped me get through a lot of stuff, and she's in Australia, and she says joy is something you choose. You choose joy. You choose happiness. It's not something somebody can do for you. It's not. You can't base it on the world. You can't base it on anything going on in the world. You can't base it on anything like that. It's an inner. You choose it. Like, I like what she has to say there because she's so right. I do. I didn't used to have a lot of joy. Or maybe I couldn't find it. Maybe it was there, but I just couldn't find it. Maybe I pushed it down. With everything else. And just stuffed it and didn't want to allow myself to feel joy or feel happiness, And we have the right to be happy. We really do, just like everybody else. And every day is not going to be a happy day. Some days are going to be hard. And it's like, that's okay, that's life, We all have to live it until, it's part of life. But we have to look for that we have to look that within ourselves, really, because nothing can buy me happiness, really, and nothing can bring me happiness. It has to come from within me, But I do have the right to be happy, right? And so do you. So I really like that. And so we have about a minute left here, so we'll pick up the rest of this tomorrow. We'll look at there's another inner child square. Actually, this is a healing meditation. This is from Meditation Gallery from Irving Studios, which is Child Abuse Survivor Monument, and they have this meditation gallery, and we can assure that our inner child is safe to play, so we can play, and we can listen to the needs and likes of our inner child. We can allow the play to be healing and nurturing. Whatever we do, we just need to take care of ourselves, and we need to make sure that we get the help that we need. So if you're struggling and you're having a hard time, you make a phone call, you call a crisis line, you get some help. You find somebody who's trustworthy and get some help. And be good to ourselves. That's what we can do today, is be good to ourselves, be good to others around us. If we're in a situation where we're being abused, you need to make sure that you get some help. And, you do not deserve to be abused. And if you're being abused, you get some help and get out of that situation, get to safety, right? And, if you're a survivor, make sure that you reach out and get some help. I'm really glad that I did that. And so, I'm thankful because people were there with their hands out, to me when I reached out to them. And so many times that's what it takes, right? So have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.